Hare Krishna and welcome back to our Bhakti Yoga Journey series. So we'll continue with our discussions on the Bhagavad Puran, starting from chapter number 16 today. We'll cover two chapters, 16 and 17. So if you remember in our previous discussions, we discussed how Lord Krishna, having departed from this world, the Pandavas now decided that it's time for them also to leave from this world. And now the reigns of the Kuru dynasty, the throne of Hastinapura, has been handed over to Parikshit Maharaj. And something very extraordinary is going to happen in these two chapters, which is actually going to set the scene for the advent of the Bhagavad Puran. So, Suta Goswami, addressing the sages of Naimisharanya, he continues narrations on the life of Parikshit Maharaj, that after the Pandavas left, Parikshit Maharaj, he was, made the king. He got married to the daughter of King Uttara and Iravati, and he had 4 sons headed by Janmejaya. And then under the guidance of their family priest Kripacharya, Parikshit Maharaj, he did many Rajasuya Yagyas, many Ashwamedha Yagyas, and he became this unrivaled emperor, conquering not just the Bharat Varsha, but many other Varshas, many other parts of planet Earth were under his dominion. So then, as part of the narration, very casually, Suta Goswami just mentions that, and one day while Parikshit was just wandering around in his kingdom, he happened to see Kali personified, who was dressed like a king, but was behaving in such a heinous way, lower than that of a Shudra. And therefore, and in that process, he was hurting, literally cutting the legs of a cow and a bull. And the king at once punished him. Just in one sentence, he finishes this whole episode. Immediately, the sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Shaunaka, they immediately interrupt Suta Goswami. And then they ask him, hey, what? Did you just say Parikshit Maharaj just punished someone and left him? And for the crime of killing, literally, hurting a cow? Now, that was something extraordinary, unheard of, because it's just like in today's context, if you hear a news report saying that, like something, it has been the news also recently, somebody due to oversped and, due to overspeeding error, and they ran over someone, and they were just told to write something, a letter of forgiveness, one paragraph in forgiveness, and told, now you can go home, you are given bail. If something like that happens, so immediately the whole world was shocked about this kind of a reprimand. What, a person died and all this person was told to do was write one paragraph? Is like some English comprehension exam, right? So this was as extraordinary as it sounded to us. Something like that happened to Shaunakadi Rishis. They were amazed. What? This person, first of all, he was not a ruler, but he was an imposter ruler. And 2, he was punishing a cow and a bull. In the Vedic culture, if something like that were to happen, that person would have been immediately reprimanded. And he was just given some basic punishment and pardoned, right? So immediately they jump on and say, please narrate this whole episode to us if it has something to do with Krishna. Now you see, the sages of Naimisharanya, such a transformation in the heart. In one of our previous classes, we saw this, how Suta Goswami was so expert in giving that taste for Krishna Katha in his audience, that these sages of Naimisharanya, from those who had that karma nishta, now they had developed this bhakti nishta. From that, they had conviction in the Vedic sacrifices and the Vedic yagyas. And from there, just by hearing Suta Goswami, they had developed taste for Harikatha, to the point where now they are saying, please give us these details. We are not interested in any worldly gossip. If this whole episode is connected to Lord Krishna, then please narrate this episode, because they say The devotees of the Lord are accustomed to licking up the honey available from the lotus feet of the Lord. What is the use of topics which simply waste one's valuable life? Right? So this is such a transformation. So when you read Bhagavatam, not only there are inner changes happening in the speaker's heart, but even the audience, their heart is getting transformed just by going to the progression. And the sages of Naimisharanya are a proof of that. So then they glorify that, even when Bhagavatam class is going on, Yamaraj also comes and sits in the class, which means temporarily there's no death. As long as the class is going on, the messenger of death is in leave of absence. So there's no possibility of inauspiciousness of death that can take place, right? So that is the power of Harikatha. So therefore, please tell us, whereas these human beings with who have this negligible intelligence and short duration of life, they just simply waste their time sleeping in the night and performing activities in the day which are of no use. Vyarthatha, they're just wasting away their life. Therefore, please tell us if it is connected to Lord Hari or to Lord Krishna. So then Sutta Goswami, he pauses. And this is also one of the ways Sutta Goswami, if you see throughout Bhagavatam, he always leaves a little teaser just to increase the appetite of the audience, right? And so they fell for his bait. And now Sutta Goswami, he elaborates in great detail this entire episode. So he says that once Parikshit Maharaj, he was, as a king, and this is a very powerful chapter actually. When you read the purports, Prabhupada gives very deep understanding of the concepts of dharma, social dharma, political dharma, what are the responsibilities of a king. At multiple levels, Prabhupada covers some very powerful themes, especially the Raja Dharma, the duty of an administrator is very beautifully highlighted in this chapter. So he says that when Parikshit Maharaj, he got to know, so the first thing is an administrator cannot remain aloof from the society. Many times you'll see politicians are sitting in their own ivory towers, completely disconnected from the grassroots level. But Parikshit Maharaj had his messengers, his spies on the field and would get regular intel about what is happening on the ground. And he got information that there are some symptoms of irreligiosity coming up. The symptoms of Kali Yuga are coming up. So immediately Parikshit takes up his bow and arrow and his chariot and personally goes to inspect. Not that he outsources that to somebody, but he personally goes to inspect, because a king needs to get first-hand information about what is happening, right? Otherwise, if a king does not develop that empathy, there is no way he can genuinely serve his citizens. It cannot happen from a space of aloofness, but he has to come in contact with the sufferings of the masses. And so there's a beautiful description of his chariot and how he traveled across the different provinces of his kingdom, of the Kuru Vamsha, the Ketumala Varsha, the Bhadra Vansha, Kim Purusha Loka. So all these different, so in fact, these are all, so usually we think that Kuru dynasty is only limited to one part of India, but actually if you see, Prabhupada very beautifully, he highlights in the purport that what are all these regions, literally, if we see that time, the dynasty of Parikshit Maharaj extended all the way from, from Eastern Europe, Central Asia to little bit of modern day, what is Kazakhstan and, that region, right? That is the Uttar Kuru region, to extending up to Siberia, right? If you visualize the world map, all the way coming down to the Mongol region, to southern China, to Nepal, Bhutan, all the way extending up to Southeast Asia. That was the entire kingdom of Parikshit Maharaj. So all these different varshas are beautifully described here. And then he traveled through all these regions. And then wherever he would go, he would hear glorification of his ancestors, the Pandavas, and how great pious rulers they were. And the king was awarding gifts to the citizens. And then wherever he would go, he would be overwhelmed by remembrances of his of Lord Krishna and Arjuna and the Pandavas. And then one day, as this was happening, Dharma personified was traveling about in the form of a bull, and Mother Earth transformed into a cow. And there's a beautiful conversation that's going to happen between these two now. Now, at this point, some of you may be thinking that, oh, what is this? Some bull and cow are talking to each other. What kind of fairy tales are we reading here from Bhagavatam, right? And Prabhupada, he extensively, very interestingly in the purports, Prabhupada, while at one level he acknowledges the narration that is happening in Bhagavatam, he also gives the symbolic meaning of all these. So we'll try to understand this episode from both the literal level and the metaphorical level. Now, to understand this from a literal sense, so what is this happening? Some cow and bull are talking to each other, and what is this cow? It's not an ordinary cow, it is earth personified, and bull is Dharma personified. So very interestingly, just few days ago, disconnected from this chapter, but I was just trying to do some research because one interesting thought came while I was cooking for my daughter, that, oh, it's amazing how the science of spices work. Just as I was pounding the cardamom, the ilaichi, I was thinking, how did people discover that this is edible? Like, did people back then, did they have so much of, they had nothing else to do, I guess. So did they just walk around plucking things from plants and eating things? And even if they eat things, how do they know that some things are to be, the pod needs to be opened? Because if you look at the pod of a cardamom, it is completely sealed. You have to make an effort to remove the pod, and then the inner kernel comes out. And then you can't just, eat the kernel. You can't just boil the kernel and eat. You need to pound it. So how did even people discover these spices? How did they discover these different vegetables? Like, how do we know that, I mean, you're supposed to eat the fruit mango or the mango, but not the leaves of mango? Did people sit down and experiment? They start making dal out of mango leaves and say, no, this tastes bitter. How did they even discover all this, right? So I'm just trying to do some research. Interestingly, in the last 500 years, we have discovered maybe 4 or 5 new vegetables. And these are something that what has happened is 20 plus vegetables have been popularized. Like, for example, cacao, which goes into chocolate, was a plant that was growing in South America, but has been popularized. Potatoes, for example, or pepper, capsicum was growing in South America, but it was popularized all over the world. But it is not that we discovered something new, right? Like, for example, seaweed, certain forms of seaweed now has become popular health food. That's a recent discovery. So in the last 500 years, apparently only 4 new vegetables we have discovered, but we have only popularized other ones. So I'm just wondering, wow, if you go by this, today we know like some, so many vegetables and spices. I wonder how many years it would have taken for them to research and find out. So modern anthropologists have a theory that literally they had lot of time, so they sat down and experimented and started eating things, and that's how they figured out the whole variety of vegetables and fruits and spices that we have. But it just sounds very difficult. So there's also another theory, very interesting. Listen to this. This is certain modern scientific publications. They also claim that perhaps they had different ways of discovery. They say that in certain traditions, they would sit down in meditation and they could sense, just like how in meditation certain deeper truths of reality are revealed, they could also sense certain deeper sciences. Like, okay, These are the kind of plants that are to be consumed. How are they to be consumed? So that knowledge was revealed to them in that state of meditation. That this is a theory which modern scientific papers are publishing. Very interesting. Another popular theory is that in certain parts of the world, when these very pure souls, when they would wander around in the forests, certain plant deities, plant goddesses, plant deities would manifest to them, and they would tell them the benefits of certain foods and how to use those foods. We are talking about, these are not some mythological stories here, we are talking about modern scientific publications. And another more perhaps logically acceptable theory is they would say that they would see what fruits and vegetables animals would eat, and humans gatherers would go and collect those. So these are the three alternatives. It's not that they were sitting down and experimenting and risking their life. Sometimes some poisonous foods are also there. But the point here is that how this theory of ability to understand certain deeper truths through meditation, ability to look at the world through these energetic beings, these sentient beings, and the form of these plant deities, and they are called as Vana Devatas in the Vedic culture. These forest goddesses, forest deities. So how certain energies of nature can be personified into forms that we can understand and we can communicate with is something that is accepted even in certain modern theories. So it is not very difficult for us to see from that perspective how earth personified as a cow and Dharma personified, because you see, earth is a sentient being. It's an energetic being. There is a life force that is running this earth. So therefore, to communicate with earth in the form of a personified being, likewise, Dharma is not something random. It's a living force that is governing. These are certain laws that are governing this world, and it's a living force. So to see them as some personified entities and Parikshit being able to communicate with them is not very outer worldly, considering even the certain modern scientific understanding. So anyway, definitely it is beyond our logical, it's definitely trans-logical to us at this point. But irrespective of that, Prabhupada also gives some very beautiful understanding that how, what is the symbolism behind this Dharma, the bull, and a Mother Earth as a cow. So you see, when cow is happy, it indicates prosperity in that region. So in this description, it is said that the Mother Earth in the form of a cow, she appears to be grieving like a mother who has lost her child. And Prabhupada takes this point that how today the whole society is centered around rampant killing of calves and cows. So this symbolism, he talks about it there, and how it seems like there were tears in the cow's eye, and the beauty of her body was lost. So once one very traditional cow expert came to our eco village, and as soon as he saw the cows, he said, "You people are taking good care of the cows." He didn't even get to know about our systems, nothing. He just saw the cows. So I asked him, how are you making such a immediate judgment? On what basis are you saying this? So he said, just look at the cows. They are peacefully sitting and ruminating. And just by the happy energy that the cows are having, and the peace and peaceful demeanor they are having, it shows that they are very happy. And where cows are happy, it means that there will be prosperity. So he was saying, but here the description is how the cows, they have tears in their eyes, and the physical beauty was lost, right? And then Dharma as bull personified, Dharma personified as bull. He asked this question, "Oh, gentle lady, why are you not looking so happy? Why it seems like there's a whole shadow of grief covering you, and your face has also become very dark in grief, right? Is it because somebody is exploiting you?" Right? So Prabhupada talks again heavily about how planet Earth and cows are being exploited today. That's a symptom of the Kali Yuga. Or are you suffering from some kind of an internal disease? Or are you thinking of some relative who's away in a distant place? So sometimes these are the causes of grief. When we are suffering through some disease or when we are separated from our loved ones. Right? And then he says, I have lost 3 of my legs and I'm standing only on one. Are you lamenting because of my state of existence? Because cows are extremely gentle. It is said that when somebody is having cows in their house, when one of the members of the family is sick, the cow feels the pain of that family. So she also shows the symptoms of grief. And in fact, sometimes the traditional people, they say that cow would, knowing the reason for the illness, so if somebody in the family is going through some disease, the cow can sense that illness, would go into the forest and eat those kind of herbs which have certain medicinal properties that can cure that kind of ailment, and deposits that medicinal properties in its milk and urine. So that is, they were the natural healers, like that. So that's why, because they are so empathetic beings, he's asking, are you feeling empathy because of my suffering? Right? Or are you in some kind of a sorry plight because the devatas are not getting their sacrificial offering? Because as Kali Yuga progresses, the concept of yajnas will slowly be lost. Right? Or are you suffering because the living entities are going through so much of famine and drought? Right? As we speak right now, there's a big major flood happening in Mumbai and many parts of India. There's like so much of floods happening in different parts of the world. Or at the same time there is famine. Or are you feeling this pain because women and children who are left, who are abandoned by certain unscrupulous people? Because people that need protection in the society, if they are not protected, as you can see, that is also happening around this world. Many parts of this world are torn away because of war and famine, and how many people are suffering there, right? Or are you feeling grief because the brahmanas, the teachers of the society, they are acting contrary to the principles of morality? Because a teacher, the people who are the intellectual heads of the society are supposed to live their life. For them, their actions should speak louder than their words. And or they need to, they should not be influenced. The intelligence of the society should not be controlled by the political heads of the society. When there is no free thinking and free speech in a society, when it is curbed by the political bureaucratical powers, then such a society is going downhill. Right? So all these symptoms we are seeing around us today in different parts of the world. Right? And he says, or is it that, are you feeling sad that the administrators of society have become corrupt and all the affairs of the state are in complete disorder? Right? Or is it that the general populace today, they have completely abandoned dharma and are only indulging in eating, sleeping, drinking and mating? That's the only, the goal of society has become enjoyment and irreligiosity. Are you unhappy because of that? Or is it because all these days Lord Krishna was personally there on this planet and he was decorating your body with his lotus footprints, and now he has left this world? Are you feeling separation from your beloved Lord? Right? So like this, because he says that all the prosperity that you have experienced is because of Lord's presence, and now in his absence, just like how a chaste wife, when her husband is no more with her, how she becomes sad. Is it like that? You're feeling sad because your dear Lord has left this world, right? So then Mother Cow, in the earth in the form of Mother Cow, she replies that, oh, actually, I will reply all your questions. In fact, she expresses her own grief, and this is the beauty that you'll see. Even though she is suffering, she first acknowledges the suffering of Dharma, the bull. You used to have all your 4 legs. We'll talk about what are these 4 legs. Prabhupada emphasizes that in the next chapter. It says, you used to stand on all your 4 legs, but now only one leg of yours is somehow you're tottering on that one leg. And then he says that, oh yes, actually I'm missing my dear Lord. And she explains 40 beautiful qualities of the Lord: truthfulness, cleanliness, intolerance towards others' suffering, the power to control one's anger, self-control, straightforwardness, dexterity, kind-heartedness, determination, fame, eternality. So all some 40 amazing qualities. She says that, and says that actually these 40 qualities are non-different from the Lord. Very powerful point actually, if you think about it. If you see many of these qualities, for example, truthfulness, cleanliness, responsibility, equality, tolerance, right? All these qualities, they may be seen as principles of morality. But Bhagavatam is very beautifully presenting that dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma, because there's a beautiful moral dilemma that always comes up. Is God great because he follows principles like truthfulness, cleanliness, etc.? Right? And many times we expect, for example, we expect God, when he comes as an avatar, to follow all these principles. When you put this kind of an imposition on the Lord, an imposition of dharma on the Lord, then indirectly we are saying dharma is higher than the Lord. In fact, such people, they are not attached to the Lord, they are attached to dharma. They are attached to morality. But dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma is what the Lord does. Therefore, all these qualities, truthfulness, cleanliness, they all find their virtue because the Lord exhibits them. And now you may say, okay, but sometimes Lord violates his principle of truthfulness. He told Yudhishthir to lie in the battlefield. Sometimes power to control anger. Krishna lost his anger in the battlefield against Bhishma and picked up the chariot wheel to attack towards him. So how can you then say that Krishna is setting the rules, he's also breaking the rules? That's not fair. So beyond dharma is the principle of prema. So dharma finds its virtue when it is increasing its prema. Therefore, truthfulness, cleanliness, tolerance, all of these qualities, when they enhance our love towards the Supreme Lord, they become virtuous. Otherwise, that truth which keeps us away from the Lord is to be rejected. Likewise, that form of responsibility, equality, tolerance, knowledge that keeps us away from the Lord is of no value. It is just an extra decoration on a drowning person, which only increases their weight and makes it difficult to save themselves. So, and repeatedly Bhagavatam hammers this point that don't get burdened by the worldly morality. Morality is only useful if it is enhancing your religiosity, your prema. Religiosity here means not the ritualistic aspect, but we saw that already in the beginning of Bhagavatam. The highest religion is that which invokes your love for Krishna. Savaya pumsham paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje. That ahetuki apratihata prema, which invokes that. So all these qualities which Mother Earth is talking about, which are seen in Lord Krishna, because Krishna exhibits these qualities while reciprocating prema with his devotees, like that. So then he says that, yes, I see that so many people, the whole Varnashram structure has been broken down. The devatas are not getting their due, offerings through yagyas, like that. And most importantly, I see that lotus feet of the Lord, which Brahma, Lakshmi, and all these, Lord Shiva, all these devatas are aspiring for, that footprints are no more there on me, and I'm feeling separation from him, right? And because of his absence, now irreligiosity has enhanced everywhere, to the point where now, oh, Dharma personified, you are now tottering on your one leg, right? So then when this whole conversation was going on, Parikshit Maharaj he comes there and he observes this person with very, very low character and low behavior, right? But was dressed like a very elegant king, like royalty. And he was beating that cow and bull with a club. And immediately, and very beautiful description, that bull, which was white as a lotus flower, was terrified by the Shudra who was beating him. It was so afraid, he was standing on one leg, trembling and urinating. So why this bull is described as a white lotus flower? Because white, a symbol of purity. Lotus, a symbol of spirituality. So dharma, which is pure and spiritual, it is being tampered with, abused by this low-class people of Kali Yuga. So Prabhupada hammers this point that how in Kali Yuga, uncultured people are going to become the messiahs of dharma, messiahs of religion, messiahs of spirituality, messiahs of social morality. And therefore, they are tampering with the principles of, because dharma is what that holds the fabric of society. Once that dharma is tampered, the whole society is due to just break down. And today, there's a massive implosion which is happening in the society. Why? Because the principles of dharma have been tampered with. And Prabhupada, this point also he hammers again, that how this cow, Mother Earth personified as cow, she is now rendered poor and calfless. Her legs were being beaten by the Shudra. Again, Prabhupada, how in Kali Yuga, the cow's calf has been separated from her, and cows are being exploited just to draw milk out of them. He writes that the cow stands with tears in her eyes, and that the Shudra milkman draws milk from the cow artificially. And when there is no milk, they are sent to slaughterhouses. These greatly sinful acts are responsible for all the troubles in the present day society. Right? Again, we need to understand why this emphasis on cows and bulls. See, please understand, even today, if you see, bulls are seen as symbols of dharma. Even if you go to the Indus Valley civilization stamps, the Indus, the bovine Indus, Indica, the Indian bull is seen as one of the seals of the Harappa and Mohenjo-daro civilizations. Even if you go back, even in the coins that they found in Dwarka archaeological excavations, even in many ancient civilizations also, you see, the bull has been seen as a symbol of prosperity. And cows are being respected not just in the Vedic culture, but why the ancient traditions valued cows and all these cattle in general, because the understanding is that if you see today, we live in this highly industrialized society where we are completely disconnected from the real sources of wealth. All the modern day industrial manufacturing is just a transformation of resource, but never a generation of resource. We are only transforming metal from ore into a vase and saying, look, I have created something new. We are transforming the silicon into computer chips and mobile phones, and we are saying we are generating something new. It is just transformation which is happening. We are not generating new silicon anywhere, right? So once one glass manufacturer met Srila Prabhupada and said, he's so-and-so glass man. I said, oh, you are a thief. You are stealing Krishna's sand and calling it your own glass, and you are making money. So then this fellow says, but Prabhupada, I'm also donating money in charity. Okay, you are a lesser thief, but nevertheless, you are a thief, right? So today we don't understand the entire tertiary economy is all secondary and tertiary economies. Both are centered around transformation of goods or service sector. This is not real wealth generation. Real wealth generation happens through Krishi and Goraksha. Krishi means agriculture and Goraksha means animal protection, animal care, cattle rearing. Because real wealth comes from there. What is one becomes many. Imagine one laptop giving birth to 10 laptops. That would be an amazing technology. Entire modern economy would collapse. Nobody would, no industry would sustain. But look at God's creation. One product will give birth to many more products, and that each product is a self-sustaining unit. It will give many more products. That is where real wealth generation happening. One grain will give thousands of grains, right? That is real wealth generation. So because it has the ability to generate, it has the ability to resonate with nature's creative energy. Anything that resonates with nature's creative energy is seen as divine in the Vedic culture and all traditional cultures. I'm not limiting it to just Vedic culture. If you see any traditional world culture, they always respected, whether it be sheep or goat or horses, they always were seen as important entities, because and farming, especially farming tools, they were all seen sacred, right? Because and not, again, even people, for example, motherhood is seen as something divine. Women were worshipped and respected. Even today we have, if you are living in traditional India, when a woman during her pregnancy time, she is literally worshipped like a goddess. There are so many ceremonies that are done before the childbirth, and even after childbirth also she is given a lot of respect and venerated, because she is now resonating with the creative energy of nature. So like that, anything that has that creative potency is seen as divine. And because today we live in this artificial economy, artificial industrialized economy, we don't understand the value of of these natural real wealth generators, like that. So therefore the whole idea of why Prabhupada is emphasizing cows, which embody the bigger concept of nature's creative energy, is that, like that. And therefore when this happened, Parshit Maharaj, he immediately took up his bow and arrow and disciplined this Shudra like Kali, and said that, how dare you hurt the helpless people in my kingdom? You think that just because Krishna and Arjuna are no more here, there are no protectors of Dharma anymore, right? And how did you, and after threatening this Kali personified, very interesting, he's seeing that Kali personified stand there. He is seeing this, this incident happening right in front of him, and yet he asked this bull, "Oh, my dear bull, oh, white as lotus, are you some kind of a demigod? You seem to have lost your 3 legs and moving only on one. Who has caused this grief to you?" Now, very interesting. He's seeing this person here with a club in his hand. He is hurting that one leg which is still remaining, but he didn't extrapolate in his head. He went to the source and asked, what is the cause of your suffering? Right? Very powerful lesson also. I remember many years ago in my childhood, there used to be this very famous storybook, Vikram and Betal. Those of you who know, you know. Otherwise, it's like a nice stories and very Dharma-centric stories, and lot of Dharma can be learned. So there's one story stuck in my head. So there's one time, one king, he had so this whole story is being narrated by one Vetal to one king, Vikramaditya, and he asks a Dharma riddle at the end, and he has to answer that riddle. So the story goes like this. So there's this one king in a kingdom, and he has this daughter who is extremely gentle, to the point where, like, even if a feather were to touch her skin would swell up. She would have, that's how sensitive she was. Very gentle and sensitive, physically also. So the king thought, oh my God, I should find a husband who's equally sensitive. Otherwise, he will literally crush her to death. So then he announces in the kingdom that the most sensitive man, physically sensitive person, please come. I will test you, and accordingly, I want you to get married to my daughter. So three young boys come forward. So the king sees them, and he says, okay, let me. So the ministers first filter out all of them. Finally, three people are nominated to the final round. So the king sees, okay, you will have some tests over the next couple of days. So until then, you are the royal, you are the guests of the palace. So please come. So that day, they were having some food. So one boy, one young man, while eating that food, he was just not relishing that food. So the king sees something is wrong. Why are you rejecting that food? Because the food tastes like ash. And immediately the king, calls the chef. Hey, why did you serve such bad food? The chef tastes the food. No, no, it's all good. Then this fellow is so sensitive. He says, no, there is some ash. So the chef goes and calls the supply, whoever supplies the rice grains, because the fellow says the rice tastes like ash. So the supply agent, he says, oh, actually, the agricultural field where we are growing now, many generations ago, it used to be a crematorium. So maybe that ash from the crematorium, some 100 years ago, maybe that subtle taste, maybe is affecting him. So the king thought, oh my God, this fellow is so sensitive. Some 100 years ago, what happened? This fellow is able to sense. Okay, then that evening after the dinner, the king organizes a special musical entertainment for all of them. So when the court lead singer, she's singing, and while throughout the singing, the second young boy, he is turning his face away in disgust. And the king says, why is this fellow, not comfortable? He asks, what is the cause of your discomfort? He says, her breath stinks of goat milk. Then immediately he stops the music and calls the singer, did you drink goat milk before the performance? Because singers, they drink goat milk. They say it is good for their singing. He says, no, but in my childhood, I used to drink goat milk. But from the last 20 years, I didn't drink any goat milk. So then the king is like, oh my God, 20 years ago, what happened? This boy is able to, this is also very extraordinary sensitive. So anyway, then they put them all, give them all their own rooms. And next morning they said, you come to the court. So two of them, the first two, the ash and the goat milk guy, they both come on time. The third fellow doesn't come on time. So the king sends his messenger, go, what's wrong with him? And they see this guy's back, it has whiplashes. Like how if somebody is lashed with whip, what kind of markings they have? They have big flashes on his back. So the king is shocked. Oh my God, what happened? I don't know. I just slept on the bed and this is what happened. So immediately the king calls the housekeeping head. What happened? What is this? Then they says, no, no, this is like the most softest, the royal mattresses we gave. Then they open the mattress, they see everything. Then they lift that mattress. Under that mattress, they notice a string. And because of that string, this fellow's back got hurt. And now the king, oh my God, I have three extraordinarily sensitive people. Whom should I get married? And now the story ends. The ghost now asks Vikramaditya, okay, now tell, whom should this king give his daughter in marriage? So Vikramaditya replies, he should give it to the third boy. He says, why? He says the king should always make proper judgment. He never personally went and saw if really the crematorium was there. He never personally could have checked if indeed that singer was singing, drinking goat milk in the childhood. But he saw with it, he had to make a proper judgment. He saw that string under the bed under his own eyes. There is no way they could have cheated here. The first two, there could have been some misunderstanding or something. So why did I narrate this whole long story? Because a king administrator should never jump to conclusions. So Parikshit Maharaj, being a true king, an embodiment of Dharma, he now doesn't want to draw conclusions. He saw the club in that Shudra's hand and he saw 3 legs are broken. He didn't want to make 1 plus 1 and jump to conclusions. So he specifically asks the bull, what is the cause of your suffering? You may think, oh wow, this is brilliant by Parikshit. But wait till the bull replies. Now, the bull replies, oh my dear king, well, different people have different reasons for the cause of suffering. If you truly ask me, right? So he says, so first reason he says that some philosophers who deny all sorts of duality say that ultimately the self is responsible for everything. You are the cause of your own suffering. Very depressing philosophy actually. Right? If you want to get depressed, please follow this philosophy. Other philosophers say that, there are some daiva. Daiva means, some supernatural force which is controlling all of us. Everything is happening by destiny. We are all puppets in the hands of destiny. So some philosophers say that destiny is the cause of suffering, right? Others say that ultimately, your mind is the cause of your suffering. Like even the Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, for one who has controlled their mind, mind is the best friend. Everything is heaven. But the mind is uncontrolled, everything is hell. It is your worst enemy. So some philosophers say mind is a cause of suffering. Then some others say that ultimately Prakriti is the cause of all action and reaction. I guess Prakriti is the cause of suffering. And then finally, the bull gives the more Vaishnava answer. It says actually, there are some thinkers who believe that no one can ascertain the cause of suffering by argumentation or imagination or through study of scriptures. It is inexpressible. You cannot express it through these words. Because there is this one ultimate cause of all causes. Karmana daiva netrena. Even those who say karma is the cause of suffering, even that loss of karma is happening under somebody else's, under the Supreme Lord's superintendence. So the Lord is the ultimate cause of all causes, but still one cannot just put one and one together and say, oh, that thing which I did last year, last November, on 10th of November at 12 p.m., what I did, that is the cause of my suffering today. So you cannot clearly ascertain the cause of suffering, right? Because many times the logical mind wants to know the exact cause of suffering. And many times it becomes difficult for us to move on in life because we spend our energy in trying to figure out what is the cause of suffering rather than using that energy to do something productive with our future. We get so stuck in the past, we bypass the present and forget about the future. So understanding that, hey, ultimately the Supreme Lord is in control. If he is a cause of all causes, he can also be the cause of my elevation of suffering also. So this is a proper understanding a devotee. That's why if you remember in the Bhishma Dev's episode also, he says, Sarvam Kala Kritam Manye. Everything is happening by the inconceivable will of the Lord, which is called as time factor. So don't try to fight suffering rather than grow through suffering. The reason why suffering exists is not as a punishment, but as a lesson for us to grow and change something about us. Many times we think because we are so uncomfortable with pain, we try to decode pain by going to the cause of pain. The way to deal with the discomfort of pain is by trying to draw a lesson out of it and moving on. So very powerful lesson. Can you imagine somebody asks you what the cause of suffering, and this is the kind of complicated answer you get back? I don't know the cause of suffering. Some people say it is karma. Some people say it is daiva, destiny. Right? If somebody gives an answer like that, you think they have gone crazy. But Parikshit understands, oh, you are Dharma personified. Just from your reply, I can understand you are Dharma personified. Therefore, he says that, yes, you are right. Ultimately, Lord's energies are inconceivable. No one can understand it through their mental speculation or word jugglery. Therefore, don't try to decode the Lord's plan for you. Surrender to the plan, and then you will see why that happened. The way to understand, many times we think, why did it happen to me? Why did it happen to me? We try to go into the past and try to decode the pain. But the way to decode that pain, that why did it happen to me, will be clear only in retrospect, when you move on in your life and draw the lesson out of it and move on. Right? Don't get stuck in the past like that. So this, and then Parikshit, he also says that you are Dharma personified and you have your 4 legs. What are the 4 legs? Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Tapa, Shaucham, Daya, Satyam. And as the yugas are progressing, in Satya Yuga, all 4 legs were there. But when Treta Yuga came, austerity was gone. Therefore, people never did long, austere meditations. By the time Dwapar Yuga started, cleanliness was gone. When Kali Yuga started, even mercy is gone. Believe it or not, the only leg of Dharma that is still surviving, hard to believe, but it's called truthfulness. There is still some truthfulness existing in the society. Unfortunately, if you see these 4 principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, the 4 regulative principles that we follow are actually protecting these 4 pillars, right? What counters truthfulness is gambling. What counters mercy is killing of animals. Therefore, no meat eating upholds the principle of mercy, of daya. Illicit sex, it upholds the principle, or avoiding illicit sex, maintaining the chastity, it upholds the principle of shaucham, or cleanliness, internal cleanliness. And no intoxication, it upholds the principle of tapa, austerity, like that. So austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. So these 4 regulative principles that we follow, it uphold the principles of dharma. And he says that out of these 4 principles, your last leg of truthfulness is all that is left. And today, if you see in Kali Yuga, that place where gambling is rampant, there, so if you see, all 4 today have been legalized. Meat eating is legalized, alcohol is legalized, prostitution is legalized, gambling is legalized. Of course, today, recently, if you're following the news, some work is going on about these online betting apps and online gambling which is going on. There is some regulation is coming up, but still, nevertheless, lot of money that government earns through taxes on these things. They have legalized these 4 things. They cannot dare stop these 4 things because there's so much of revenue loss for them. So can you imagine? Government is working hand in hand in breaking dharma. Government, which is supposed to, administration is supposed to protect dharma, is legalizing adharma. That is the state of Kali Yuga. Therefore, he says Kali is trying to destroy through, because the nature of Kali is what? Deceit. So deceit counters truthfulness. So he's trying to destroy this one leg, and therefore he immediately says, he immediately takes out his sword and says, "O Kali personified, you have no place in my kingdom. Get out of my kingdom immediately." But the Kali, he started trembling. Can you imagine how powerful? So this is where, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. In Mahabharata, it says that when you protect dharma, dharma will protect you. When you uphold the principles of dharma in your life, you will become so powerful. Adharma has no place in front of you. So Parikshit was such a dharmic king. Kali personified got scared. Kali, who scares everyone else, got scared by Parikshit. And he begs for forgiveness. He surrenders to Parikshit and says, "My dear king, wherever I go, I will only see you and your deadly sword. So please, I surrender to you. Make me a citizen in your kingdom." So, and then now, see, this is also one important point. Parikshit, because Kali surrendered, anybody who surrenders needs their mercy and compassion. So because he surrendered, he smiled compassionately and says, okay, because I am the descendant of Dharmaraj and Arjuna, I will spare you, but you cannot remain in my kingdom. But I will give you these 4 places. Wherever these 4 things are happening, intoxication, illicit sex, gambling, and meat eating, wherever these 4 things are happening, there you can stay. So you can understand wherever these 4 things happen, the degradation, that Kali psychology will come in immediately. But then Kali says, but these 4 things are not happening anywhere in your kingdom. So it's practically, I don't have any place to say. Then it's okay, wherever gold is hoarded, right? This hoarding of gold is also a very deep principle. We can actually have a whole class on this, because you must think, see, what is wealth? Lakshmi, wealth is personified as a goddess of wealth, Lakshmi Devi in Vedic culture. So Lakshmi Devi, when you try to hoard Lakshmi, you are like Ravana. So many times we think wealth is an energy that needs to flow. Wealth, when it is stagnated in one place, it is like Ravana mentality, right? So you don't. So the whole modern economics, right? The whole Arthashastra is centered around circulation of wealth. Just like how when air is flowing in our body, the body is alive. Wealth, when it is circulated in the society is alive. Because wealth is that energy that is lifeline of the society. That is why Artha plays such an important role in the society. But when you choke up, the society becomes literally constipated. That is what is called economic recession, depression, right? That is Kali Yuga. That's where Kali personified will come in. So it is important. So it is not just about circulating wealth also, but the wealth has to be circulated in a proper way. Dharma has to guide the circulation of Artha. Then the society will function properly. Then the proper kama, desires will be fulfilled. Then moksha, desire for moksha will come. So when these 4 principles are not followed properly, then the society will become influenced by Kali psychology. So when Parikshit says, okay, wherever gold is also hoarded, you can go there. So giving that benediction, Parikshit Maharaj, he gives Kali that place, and that is how he gives these 5 places where all these 4 regulative principles are broken and where gold is hoarded. He gives these 5 places, and that is how he protects Dharma and Mother Earth in the form of the cow. And that is how Suta Goswami, he narrates this very beautiful episode, glorifying how powerful King Parikshit is, that he could literally challenge a whole phase of time. See, understand, Kali Yuga, it's a phase of time. The whole symptom of the social psychology which comes because of Kali Yuga, he is able to challenge that whole social psychology, and the whole social energy itself is able to challenge. That's how powerful a dharmic king is. So many lessons you can learn from this episode. However, Kali did enter, and Kali does play its tricks, and how Kali influences, because how irreligiosity corrupts a society, not from the lower rungs but always from the top, and how the knowledge heads, who are the brahmanas, the intelligentsia, when they get corrupted, the whole social degradation will follow. So that intelligentsia got corrupted in the form of a young boy, and how that young boy, he curses Parikshit, and that led to the entire beautiful episode of the Bhagavatam. So we're going to see that very powerful chapter next time. Very, very powerful chapter, how Parikshit takes up how he accepts the curse. That the greatness of Parikshit's character will come out in the next chapter. We'll see that. All right, so let's end our discussion here. If there are any quick questions or comments, if anybody wants to add something, if you'd like to. Yes, Apurva, go ahead. Please ask a question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you told about hoarding wealth and it needs to flow. So, but people still, they save money to be financially independent and all that. So, like, is it against Dharma? Or, like, to what extent is it allowed?
Ask this question. So let me share my personal experience on this. Recently, I was just talking to someone about this, and so when I started, earning money, so one of the first lessons I had to learn was the art of saving money, right? And I thought that was it. But in the recent past, I learned the art of spending money, and this is a very fine art. I'm no way suggesting you to uh, become a spendthrift and start exhausting your financial resources. That's not what I'm propagating. Neither am I saying proposing some kind of a materialistic philosophy of just eat, sleep, and spend money on shopping and all the Amazon sales, and that's not what I'm suggesting. But the point I'm trying to make is that uh, many times as we are saving money also, a subtle greed comes in, right? So this wealth is a very, very subtle energy. You need wealth, at the same time you need to be detached from wealth. So initially we may think saving wealth, if it is sattva, overspending is rajas, no saving is tamas. But at a spiritual level, you will not only learn the refined art of saving, but also the refined art of spending for the right needs to experience joy and prosperity. If you're only saving money, you are following dharma, you are following artha, but that karma is not happening. Because for the third phase of purushartha to happen, that wealth also needs to be spent for legitimate desires. Why? If you don't spend for your legitimate desires today, you as an individual will not grow. And when you will not grow, when the right age to detach comes, you will still have lot of unfulfilled desires. And the worst part is, at the age of 80, 70, you cannot fulfill certain desires which should have been fulfilled when you are 30 and 40. Again, mind you, please, I'm not asking you to go all out and start spending your money, and I'm not proposing a materialistic philosophy, but rightful spending is equally important with rightful saving, especially for a grihastha. And when I say spending, I'm not, sometimes charity is also spending, by the way, right? Charity is one of the important elements of spending. Prabhupada, in one of the purports also, he writes how 50% of your income has to be given. He gives 4 or 5 points to counter Kali Yuga. So a due amount of money also has to be spent. So only hoarding money under the name of saving and early retirement and all this, somewhere, if it is not very strongly guided by, because if you think about it, most of these people want to retire early because they want to avoid responsibility for a longer duration in their life. When the dharma is in line with your swabhava and when the swadharma is followed, then you will grow to your responsibility. It's like saying you engaging your swadharma is just like you studying scriptures or doing your sadhana. It's like saying, oh, in my lifetime, if I live for 100 years, I have to chant X number of rounds in 100 years. Let me finish all my rounds in 2 years, so that next 30 years, I don't have to wake up early in the morning. It sounds funny, but early retirement to me sounds like that. Again, I'm no way, please, this is like, I'm trying to, my talk may sound a little on the extreme side, but I'm trying to balance both sides here. Sometimes, yes, people will be stuck in a job where where there's no question of dharma in the first place, right? We're talking about those, if their already lives are led by dharma, and when that artha is in line with that dharma, then there's no question of early retirement. And that is why, if you see, technically, Prabhupada never retired. right? Because for him, as a sannyasi, he could have, for sannyasi, retirement meant what? Go to Vrindavan, sit down and do my Nirjan Bhajan. But he didn't retire, right? So that's why in the devotional service of the Lord is never a retirement. Somewhere that retirement mentality is a moksha kami mentality, liberation seeking mentality. So lot of, again, like I said, lot of introspection is needed. If you feel, yes, you are in that kind of a very tamasic workspace where, oh, you are just working just for the money sake and there is no dharma involved here, okay, better earn enough money, retire early, and I agree to that plan. But ideally, you cannot sit idle even after that early retirement. Engage your skills in some way, so that the concept of retirement, you have to be very, very cautious, because idle mind is a devil's workshop. So, right, that is one aspect. Second thing is, therefore, even while you are earning that money, the art of spending also is something you need to master. It takes time, it doesn't happen overnight, right? It's easy to overspend, but it takes wisdom to spend rightfully and enjoy that in a sattvic way. I hope I didn't confuse you more.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yes, Megha, go ahead. Let's take one last question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In between, you mentioned about surrender and dharma, so I would like to know in brief or a little detail that how they are like connecting. And to be honest, like I feel that surrender is something which I like feel that it is not clear to me, like what it really means to surrender on daily basis. And is it something a natural uh, byproduct of certain state of mind, or it is something to practice?
See, at our level, surrender means stop overthinking. Simple. Surrender to Krishna. Oh, Krishna, my life is yours. These are very advanced state of consciousness. For us, to stop overthinking is surrender, because we want to surrender to our mind. The moment you stop surrendering to your mind, you will naturally surrender to Krishna. Trusting that, see, subtly when you think, why do we overthink? Because we seek solace in meditating on the problem and not on the solution. Because that solution is a corrective action. We don't want to take corrective actions in our life, but rather there's a kind of a emotional satisfaction that you get by brooding over past and kash, mein aisa kiya hoga. I wish I would have done that. Or maybe if I done this, that ifs and buts and maybes and if nots and all that, living in the past gives you satisfaction at that moment. Right? Because we live in our own fantasy land, thinking that, oh yes, all this is very good. We live in a virtual world where problem didn't happen. That is literally escapism mentality. You are living in an illusory world where problem never happened. But when you stop overthinking and confront with, okay, now that this happened, how should I move on? You are surrendering. Right? Start doing this and you will naturally grow to the next level. All right. Okay. Thank you. Let's end our discussion here. Thank you all so much. So see you all next week with another very, very powerful episode from Bhagavad Puran. Hare Krishna.